Hey guys, welcome back to the North Star Takes podcast, your one-stop shop for Minnesota sports content and takes. Bailey Palicki and Jacob Liberto with you here. You can find any of our videos on YouTube at the North Star Takes podcast, and you can also keep up with us on Instagram and Twitter. And today we're going to be chatting about our beloved Minnesota Vikings. I know not a lot going on right now in the midst of OTAs and minicamp, but I mean, it's always football season, 365.
Yes.
There's always something to
Football
talk
never
about.
sleeps, man.
Exactly. I know. I love it. The NFL season's my favorite. But I think as far as noteworthy things going on right now at OTAs and minicamp, I would say Nadine Hunter and Jeff Gladney being among basically the few guys or couple guys that have not been appearing there at the practices. So I think we'll start there. What are your impressions of that, of Nadine Hunter and Jeff Gladney and a couple others that have been no-shows?
Yeah, the Gladney thing, I guess, isn't too surprising because there's an investigation going on right now with a potential domestic assault allegation. So, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's potential, and it's pretty certain it happened, and it was not good. So, Gladney could possibly face jail time. He'll get a hefty suspension from the league, I'm sure. So, I'm sure the team's just keeping him away for now, especially while there's an investigation going on. The Nadine Hunter thing is not too surprising. Obviously, he's been wanting a new contract, even though he's still got 3 years left on his deal. He is very underpaid for how good he is relative to his position.
Oh, absolutely.
It's rumored his representation wants the Joey Bosa contract, which is just the highest paid defensive end in the league.
That's about twice as much as he's making right now.
Yes, and Vikings obviously don't have the money to make that work.
No.
And he's coming off a neck injury, so I don't think it's realistic that he'd get to that point. I do think he's deserving of a raise, though. He's the best player on our defense when he's healthy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could see them wanting to get him back in the building, maybe once they have their mandatory mini camp coming up here. Just get him back in the building and see if he's actually healthy, watch him do some workouts.
Yeah. See where we're at.
Yeah, see where we're at, and then maybe they'll talk contract with him. So maybe that's what they're doing right now. So I'm not terribly worried about Nadine Hunter not being there yet, but I'd say if he's not there for the mandatory mini camp, and then if they don't have a deal in place by training camp, I'd start to get worried.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. I think, like you said, it's not really surprising to see the guys who haven't been there not being there. But I think, speaking of Hunter specifically, I think I could see it from both sides here. I can kind of see it from the Hunter camp that he legitimately is a top 5 defensive end in the league.
Yes.
And I think he could be paid as such. But the thing is, I can also see the Vikings' hesitancy because he's coming off a neck injury, which is kind of scary in a violent sport like football is. So, I mean, there should be a little caution there. You probably want to see him play a little bit more. But, I mean, sometimes it's just not the reality of the situation. But if you think, if he can just come into mini camp and not miss mandatory practices and come into training camp, and maybe they haven't quite reached a deal, but they're close, but they just kind of want to see, but they like what they see, Zimmer, Patterson, they kind of give it the go-ahead, and they're like, oh, yeah, he'll be fine. Then, I mean, last year, remember, he was saying it was a tweak. So, I mean, got to be a little cautious about just giving them the control there, assessing if he's good to go or not.
Right.
But I think, if you get him for physical, see how he practices, maybe think he's the same old guy, but it's like, go ahead, pay him as a top 5 defensive end in the league. That's fine with me because I think that's what every good team needs, is a franchise defensive end. So I'm totally cool with paying him that much money, and I think he could potentially be a defensive player of the year someday because, I mean, he still is only like 25 or something, which is kind of absurd because you feel like he's been playing in this league.
He was so young when he got drafted.
Exactly, and it's amazing how he's come along. So I think he's definitely worthy of the extension. It's just I'm kind of interested at what point in this process that we're going to kind of strike a deal because I think Spielman will take care of it. It's just I kind of wonder when. Yeah,
and I think the thing that they need to think about as well here is we have quite a bit of cap space left. We just signed Bashad Breeland. We'll get into that later. We still have cap space for this year, so you could try to load up the first year here. You also have to be under the assumption that Kirk Cousins is probably to be gone either next year or the year after.
And that's going to open up a ton of cap space.
So much cap space. So you'll have that to pay Nadine Hunter as well. So obviously I think they're going to get something done. He's too valuable to just walk away. But yeah, like if you can just kind of get through this next year or two without having to be crunched up against the cap, then once Kirk is gone, then
you're fine.
All your worries go away in terms of that. So
exactly. So yeah, that's another reason for extending him and giving him a ton of money just to make him happy because you're going to have the flexibility to do that. Because like you said, with Kirk's contract coming off the books, hopefully sooner rather than later, then you're going to create a lot of space that way. But you're also going to get a lot of space from the salary cap probably going significantly up from
that's a good point.
Where it's at right now for this season because obviously the NFL reached all these new TV deals and they're just making a ton of money, and then obviously you're going to pack the stadiums again this year, which is a very exciting thing for us fans. So the NFL is going to see a lot more revenue that way too. So I mean, you're going to create a ton of cap space that way too. So I think it makes all the sense in the world to extend them. It's a matter. It's not really. I don't think it's a matter at this point of if. It's rather when.
Yes, and I think it maybe rubs the team the wrong way a little bit that he just signed an extension a couple of years ago. He's got 3 years left on his deal, and he's already asking for a new contract. But at the same time, I mean, he's been very good. So
exactly. But I think we can leave that conversation there. I think we can revisit that obviously at a later point in time with more new services. But more recently too, the Vikings, as far as signings go, they brought in Bashad Breeland. I know there was a little bit of tension there last week when he first came in for a visit. He got lowballed, and he was upset about it. But, but they brought back the negotiation table, and they managed to strike a deal, pry him away from Kansas City, where I think he really wanted to end up back in. But I'm happy to have him on the squad because he's been a pretty good man-to-man corner these last couple of years in Kansas City. So I think that's a really intriguing thing to add to a loaded cornerback room here because currently under contract, but on our roster right now we have 9 guys, which is kind of incredible. But the thing is, it's like obviously you got these 3 guys at the end. We got Maben, Nickerson, and Ty Smith, which picked up from the Titans. I think all 3 of these guys are kind of probably fighting to get on the practice squad. For sure, but honestly, everybody that was like here last year, like our marquee free agent signings, I feel really good about almost all of these guys.
I do too.
As far as their ability to play, like I wouldn't feel like it's a detriment to us if they have to play at some point this year. So I kind of wonder though, with there being so many corners, I kind of wonder how many we're going to keep on the 53-man roster. When eventually we have to break it down. I'd imagine 6, but what are your thoughts? How many do you think they're going to keep, and who do you think they're keeping around?
Yeah, I think they'll keep 6 as well. I mean, last year they had so many injuries at corner, and they were just decimated. I don't think Zimmer wants that to happen again. No. So you'll probably have Patrick Peterson's going to start for sure, given the contract that they paid him, that they're paying him, and it's just a 1-year deal. He'll get to start.
Yep.
And then I think Dantzler's going to start, but it could be a competition between him and Bashad Breeland for that second corner spot. Although I know Breeland can play some slot corner too, which is I think going to be Mackenzie Alexander's going to get the start there. So obviously you have those first 4 main guys, and then we have to wait and see what happens with Jeff Gladney. I'd be willing to bet he gets at least a 4-game suspension, probably more than that though.
At least, and then you put him on some exempt lists where he doesn't really count towards the 53-man roster.
Exactly. But. So really, if he ends up playing at all this year, he probably wouldn't be caught up until almost halfway through the season anyways. So you got a guy like Harrison Hand who had a good end of the season last year, 5th-round pick from a year ago. He's had a good OTAs so far. He's had a couple interceptions. I know it's just practice, but at least he's making plays. Then you got Chris Boyd, who, he's got the swag. He's got some special teams
he'll talk.
Prowess, yes. But, he hasn't been great when they've had to put him in there. But I'd like to keep him around as like a 6th corner / special teams guy. So.
For sure. Yeah, if he could play special teams, I'm cool with that. Because obviously our special teams last year was abysmal. So if he was he's probably one of our few bright spots, honestly. So if he can be a good gunner on special teams, like I can live with him taking up a roster spot. So
absolutely,
I think that's fine. But like you said, with all those names, I agree with you there that those would be the guys we keep around. And obviously, the Gladney thing is kind of a lurking factor here, which could take one of these guys' roster spots away, or maybe he's not even on the team anymore come the NFL's decision time. So
that's that's kind of what I'm wondering. What do you think? So say Gladney comes back, week, we'll say 9.
Sure.
Say he gets an 8-game suspension.
Sure.
Obviously, he was a first-round pick, so they're not going to want to give up on him. Whose spot does he take out of these first 6 guys? Dantzler, obviously not. Peterson, obviously not. Mackenzie Alexander, assuming he's good. He's on a very small contract, so if he's horrible, they could cut him, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing. I think Gladney and Alexander would be kind of the 2 slot corners. So, I mean, do you see him taking any of these guys' spots?
I know, that's really hard to pick because the thing is like
maybe Chris Boyd.
Chris Boyd, but if Boyd's contributing on special teams, it's kind of hard to take out of there and bring back Gladney into the fold. Unless you think Gladney's going to play special teams, I don't know.
Which for a first-round pick, it's like, really?
That'd be kind of disappointing. But, I mean, that's kind of the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
But I'd imagine, too, I mean, you hate to say it, you don't want anybody to get hurt, but it's kind of the nature of the situation that somebody will probably get hurt.
Yep.
You could probably take somebody's spot
that's
that
a good
way.
point,
But, if everybody's healthy, then it's kind of hard to envision where he's really gonna fit in there. Like you said, it's kind of laughable if you're gonna have a first-round corner play special teams. But I mean, it just is what it is. But I Yeah, that's just one thing that'll have to be revisited later in time because there's just too many unknown factors there as far as gliding goes. So that we'll just have to see. But I'm pretty confident in the guys that we do have there that are practicing right now.
Yes,
so I'm pretty happy with the stability of that room, or at least what seems like it right now.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, I think a thing to keep an eye on as we go forward here, and we can talk about this more later on too, is what the offensive line is looking like. I know that the two rookies haven't been thrown into starting roles, and it's just practice, but they've had Rashad Hill and Dakota Dozier on the starting offensive line. So I'll be kind of curious as we get through like the mandatory mini camp here and move towards training camp if that starts to change pretty quickly.
Yeah, I kind of wonder at what point you plug in Darius out at the first team, and probably Wyatt Davis too at right guard. I would hope he'd take Dozier's shot, but because you really envision by the time we get to week 1, go to Cincinnati for that first game, that it will be left to right. It would be Darius, and then you got Cleveland, Bradbury, Davis, and then O'Neal. But I guess time will tell. I know Zimmer's kind of, as long as he can help it and he has enough depth, he's kind of, you got to earn it, Rook. Kind of coach. But nothing's going to be given to him, which I think is fair to an extent, especially this early in the process. Like we're just going through OTAs, it's not that big of a deal. But once we go to training camp and really start to form an opening day depth chart, I guess we kind of got to put it, round it into shape so guys really can get settled into their positions, but and what the guys are going to actually be playing with. So I think that will need to be addressed in training camp sooner rather than later. But
absolutely. Like you said, it's the off season, but football never sleeps. There's always stuff to talk about. So.
Exactly. Can't wait to talk more Vikings in a later time. But
absolutely.
That's going to do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Be sure to like our videos and subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter. Stay tuned for more content coming soon.